Kia ora koutou. Welcome to lesson 2B. In this lesson, we are going to discuss the advantages of moving to a customer-centric organization and how employee empowerment affects motivation and customer value. This is the final lesson in the Business Agility Radar or the Business Agility lesson. And these two lessons together will give you a better understanding on how to measure your current state, how to plan your future state, to be an adaptive organization responding to customer needs in a flexible way. This leads to greater customer value and greater employee value. Kia ora. So when we think about customer experience, we tend to look at some of the studies that are coming out. The customer of the future we talk about, right? In the future, this is going to happen. Well, here's some studies that just happened now. Customers that expect companies to understand them is now 74% of customers. That's a lot, right? Customers who are willing to pay more for a great experience, 86%. And this makes sense. I'm going to pay at least $1 more for a coffee than the person who actually smiles and remembers my name. And that sounds silly because it's exactly the same product I'm buying, but it's the experience I'm paying for. And lastly, customers that have a positive experience is more influential than great advertising. 63% already, and that's growing. What I love about this is we're tending to find that advertisement is getting lower return on investments than word of mouth, then promoting your vision and creating a great customer experience. It's not the future, it is now. Nothing ever becomes real till it's experienced. John Keith. A quick example of this, because I love my data. The Temkin Group found that companies that earn $1 billion annually, and there is some variation of smaller companies, can expect a $700 million average increase over 3 years of investing in customer experience. That is huge. And the reason why those companies get such a big return is because they're making the push first. They're getting the competitive advantage. So think about it in terms of those companies are going out, grabbing that competitive advantage. And what we're finding is all the other companies, even if they make the transition now, it's too late. They won't get a competitive advantage, they'll just get an even playing field. And that's what I love. We're at this point right now where you as leaders can actually make the decision to transform towards agility for the greatest competitive advantage. Because if your competitor does it, I guarantee you'll be playing catch up. Too often are strategic transformations about high performance. And I admit, I do that as well. I talk about performance, productivity. I don't like efficiency, I like productivity. But we got to remember, the customer is really what we're doing it for. We're not doing it for our internal partners or clients or stakeholders. It's all about the customer at the end of the day. Here's a great image from a well-known framework called the Scout Agile Framework. As you can see, the customer's at the end. Now, to their point, it is 2020 now. There is a SAFe 5.0 that was released, I think, a few months ago, maybe 8 months ago now, and the customer is more central. But as you can see, this is a very new thing. Scrum, a very popular agile delivery method or framework. And in this delivery framework, you'll find they have a product owner. The product owner is a customer representation. It's not the customer. It is another step towards that customer. Again, both of these, I would say, are very 1990s. And we've moved on from these. I look forward to seeing the data out of SAFe 5.0, mind you, which looks good. So why do we do this? Why do we do this? We do this because we could be afraid to fail in front of our customers. Yeah, no, totally. I get that. I think, especially in the 80s and 70s, if you failed in front of your customers, it would be publicized. Now we're finding if you fail but openly admit you fail, customers reward you. You get more because organizations, especially large corporates, are looked at as some form of evil corporation. The ones that are transparent are tending to do a lot better. We know best. Well, of course you do. If you know best, then stop watching this video because there's nothing to learn. It's different here. I mean, I've heard that so many times. Mike, you don't understand. It's different here. Yes, I totally agree. Every organization is bespoke. Every culture is bespoke. Every niche customer segmentation could be different to somebody else's. Totally agree. However, it doesn't stop the fact your customers are segmenting themselves. We're not doing it. They're segmenting themselves. And now the 20-year-old female vegan who loves sport on a Sunday will only buy from companies that support vegans who play football. That's a really extreme example, Michael. But it's happening. The customers are evolving. We're not forcing them. They're doing it themselves. And if you want to stand behind and let it happen, by all means. So what we're saying is product centricity, building things no one wants, is not good. It's cold and old, but you know what? It's efficient. So if you want efficiency, that is part of your strategic direction. If your board of directors have said, actually, we're going to push towards the right, we're focusing on efficiency, we're going to commoditize all of our products. Awesome. No, great. That's your strategy. I can't complain. However, for the vast majority of organizations who have to work in the value add region or the innovation space, you need to be aware of the customer experience. Customers, they then feel like they're part of something. Things are tested earlier with massive feedback cycles. And by massive, I mean like there's lots of them. Right, this whole video is a testing early scenario. Do you like the audio visual? Do you like the content? Are the slides good? I know you'll all let me know. It reduces your advertisement spend. But you don't need to. You focus on customer experience and let them do the rest. That funnel, that marketing funnel is a lot easier to work with. If you focus on the customer and on their experience, making it the maximum that they can get to increase the customer value. So you're saying we need to find out what the customer wants before we start building stuff? Would help. A lot of industries. So when we think about employee motivation, and we touched on this before, and as you can see, what we're building up to is all four of these values are all interlinked. We mostly have pyramid structures. And I think you can all know what they are, right? At the bottom, you have knowledge workers, then you have management and specialists, functional heads, senior leadership, and the CEO, the boss. And what happens is, if you can't get what you want, you go up and down, and you waste a whole bunch of time. It's fantastic. Those making decisions are not near the customer. And I think Simon Sinek's quote where he says, talks to CEOs and says, what's your purpose? And they say, it's to serve the customer. And he's like, when's the last time you saw a customer? No. Your job is to look after the people, who look after the people, who look after the people, who look after the customer. There is no need for the CEO to make any decisions other than the vision. As Simon says, Chief Vision Officer would make far more sense than Chief Executive Officer. It's a waste in bureaucracy, as we've just said, and I can't imagine anyone who hasn't experienced this. The absolute waste that goes in trying to get a decision made. Knowledge workers, they don't feel autonomous. And because they don't have autonomous decision making, they can't pivot. And in fact, they won't even raise these issues. They're like, what's the point? And nothing gets done. Very quickly, the stages of leadership. Talk about situational leadership. When you first start in leadership roles, you tend to micromanage a lot. It's an autocratic leadership style. It's you demand authority. You basically have low supporting behavior from your teams. You probably won't have teams, you have just groups of people. It has a positive aspect though in repetitive manual tasks. Things that we're automating right now. It does have a little bit of, I think it's moderate correlation with success. You move into management because your team are not performing. And you realize, okay, right, I'm gonna change how I do things, right? I'm gonna focus on instructing the team and I'm gonna mark the results, right? I'm managing the team. I may give them maybe the what and they'll do the how, and I'm just gonna manage them. Still autocrat leadership style, but you tend to get better results in short-term knowledge workers. And I always make the example of project managers, especially with contract resources. You can drive them into the ground, you'll get positive results, they'll burn out, they'll leave, but you've been successful. Is it good for long-term competitive advantage for organization? No, it's not. Can it be used during a crisis? Yes, you can manage during a crisis. And our own Prime Minister has shown that. Jacinda Ardern, she managed personally, and we've just found out from The Guardian that was true, that she managed it personally and made decisions. And it worked. Well, depending on what side you take, but from our point of view, it worked. You move into facilitation mode. Why do you move into facilitation mode? Because you realize a lot of your teams are highly trained people who know more than you, are better at doing things than you. So the team are showing very high supporting behavior. So you basically make it democratic decision to give them authority, right? And you facilitate their learning. This is the kind of area of leadership I think Scrum Masters and Agile facilitators do very well. And for leaders in the room, you could emulate that very quickly. And then not only do you not need a Scrum Master or an Agile facilitator, you will have better outcomes for your organization and probably be more liked as well. When you stop getting any production productivity gains, you tend to start asking a lot of questions. And then you realize that you need to participate. It's a participation leadership style. And this allows you to ask questions, let the team decide. You get high supporting behavior. You see that. And if you see that, you know you're in the right place. This is very positive for high performance. And again, this is what Agile coaches, senior leaders do. You tend to get a lot more higher performance around asking the questions, getting them to have those aha moments, i.e. David Rock from the Quiet Leadership book, those aha moments. And then the greatest people are the ones who are not even required. Laissez-faire, leadership style, social authority. Leader supports a team with a vision and gets out of their way, right? So I love this when I see a really good coach who's barely doing any work. And people say, oh, what's that guy or girl doing? And you're like, being an awesome leader, because they're there if they need them, but they don't actually have to do anything anymore. You get a lot of innovation from that. And if innovation is what you want, that's where you want to push your leaders towards, or ask them. Yeah. I simplified this a little bit. Situational leadership role that I do myself, depending on the behaviors of a team or group, but start with team, I move between teach, facilitate, coach, and support. As I move around, I need less time with teams. I can have more teams. A good example of this, when I first go into an organization as a Scrum Master, I may have 1 to 3 teams. I'm teaching and facilitating, and then I'm facilitating and coaching, and then I can have probably between 6 and 12 teams. And then when I'm supporting, I can support probably 300-400 teams because they shouldn't need me anymore. It's situational to the team. So all of this you got to remember, just because you're an amazing leader, the team may not actually want that. They may want management for the time being. And you want to be just one step ahead at all times. Yeah. Who's up for some coaching? This is where coaching goes wrong. You know, when you just ask questions and you're not doing it for a specific reason. I quite like this. Feel free to pause the video and have a laugh. But you don't just want to ask questions to get the solution you want. They're not open questions. You want people to fail that allows you to feel that they're learning. You want them to fail very, very small and fast. Why? Because the impact is less. You don't want to let somebody walk on a program and fail the whole program and cost millions of dollars. That's just Barney. But what you want to do is basically have little small failures that they learn from, and you'll coach them through that. Why am I saying this? Why am I saying all these things? Because the culture kept evolving. And again, there's nothing we can do about it. Culture internally in organizations, culture in outside organizations, it is evolving very rapidly. The more global networks we get, more Facebook, everything else, we are just getting more aligned, and there's nothing that any organization can do about it. Hierarchies are slow to respond, they're not motivating, and they reduce innovation. You lose great leaders as well. You can have a great leader as a team lead who is fantastic potential, who could probably have 300-400 people under them, and you put them in a row, and because they're not doing their KPIs around slapping everyone's hand, they don't move up the ranks, and then they leave, and you've lost a great leader. Autonomy is intrinsically motivating. It creates new ways of working, so you don't require frameworks to keep on being brought in by new fad coaches, and it creates an environment for high innovation that just naturally happens. Again, I think there's one hierarchy called the pancake hierarchy. Doesn't mean there should be no hierarchies. I'm sure there is legit reasons for that. I believe in a network of living organism. I like that a lot, but each to their own. It depends on the situation. We're just saying autonomy is more valuable.